to make a difference in the world.
Tell me about Lebanon, because there's another place where everything is happening there.
Yeah.
You have the guerrilla wars, and you have it's every day same thing as Palestine. So tell me about them. How do they? With you?
Well, I think Lebanon, in a lot of ways, I lived in Beirut, which in a lot of ways I found similar to London, because everyone is all mixed together. You know, you have people from all different backgrounds who are sharing the same space.
That's where the Hezbollah.
Well, that's one of the cities where they're. Okay. I mean, Hezbollah has a political party, and they are in the government, which is in Beirut. So they're involved in the government, but they also have a military wing, which is based in Beirut, but primarily in the south of Lebanon. So on the border with Israel is where more of their militia are based. But I think for the thing that was really impressed me about Lebanon is how there were so many different people from, all anyone around the Middle East. So you had, Christians, you had Sunni, Shia, Druze, and some Jews as well. Not as many, but some. They're all living in the same area, and they all found a way to live together. Now, you may not see that on the news, because on the news, what we see is always, whenever there's a fight, it's the same anywhere here. If you look at the news and you see, the top few stories, this person was stabbed or this person that, and you think, oh, everyone's killing each other. But actually, most of the people are really getting along and doing a good job of it. But then you have some people who aren't, and this is what we see more than the.
Yeah, I think we've been too much around Palestine and Lebanon. Can I just ask you before we go to another topic? What do you see as a third person? Because every day I see those things, it changes my mind, isn't it? Because I can see people dying. But from your part, as a teacher, what's the solution? What can it be? I mean, Arabs, they're not bringing any solution. Every time they just go around to America and come and sort this out. They're not doing it themselves. So what do you think the solution is going to be? How would the solution come? What do you think?
Well, I wish there were a quick answer, like a 5-second answer that would be, that would solve everything. I do think, and this may surprise you, that when I first arrived in the country, I remember I lived there for 2 years, and I first arrived, I thought, oh, this is really simple. I have a 5-step plan that will solve the conflict. And then after I lived there for 2 years, I felt more and more like I have no idea. It's very, very complicated, because there are so many interests and so many our areas of power at play. Different countries have their own interest in there, and also you have two people living on a very small bit of land trying to figure out how to share it with each other. So I don't think there's a simple solution, but I think I found some people who were really working for that together, and that's what really inspired me, because it's very difficult. It's easier to work for peace if things are okay, but if things are really difficult, I had friends who had family members who had been killed in the conflict, and they were working every day tirelessly to try to have more peace between Christians and Muslims in Palestine, and also with Israelis and Palestinians outside of the West Bank. And I think that's actually what makes a difference, is that we don't wait for the government to fix things, because the government, we can't depend on the government to fix things. If we want to fix things, I think if we want to make things better, it's a responsibility on us to do everything we can ourselves. And it's easy for me to say that because I'm sitting in a nice, a lovely flat in London, so I can't say that. But what inspired me was seeing people there who that's what they did. They spent all of their time working to create a situation of peace and to work for justice as well, because both of those come together, peace and justice. They can't happen separately. So working for justice and working for peace. And I had some really good friends who did they did protest against the building of the wall that was being built in between the West Bank and Israel, and some of it was being built, as you may know, on Palestinian land. And there were people who would go every week, and some of them every day, and they would be Palestinians and Westerners and Israelis, and they would go and protest, and they would have to face tear gas and beatings, and they would go back every day and keep working to fight for justice, and in some ways being very successful. So those kind of people really inspired me, because that's the people who are making a difference. They're not waiting for the government to fix things, and they're not just blaming other people. They're saying, let's get involved, let's make a difference here. And that's what I think is the only way that there can be a solution.